Hello everyone, my name's Deborah Wilson. My Abigail Reborn YouTube page is called that because one of the songs I've written is called Abigail. So the YouTube page is kind of about my musical journey and my faith in God. So I renamed it that instead of it just being my name. But today I want to talk about muscle tension dysphonia and my experience with that. So yeah, my name is Deborah. I am 50. I have muscle tension dysphonia, which is a vocal disorder. I have been suffering from that for quite a little while, and the video that I did last, which was several months ago, was a song that I wrote during my absolute silence when I wasn't really speaking at all or singing. And it's called Silent I Won't Stay. So in my video, even though I don't sing it, I do talk a little bit about my vocal disorder, and I just play the song instrumentally. I'm hoping to still record that one day. So that kind of was the first video I did after getting muscle tension dysphonia, but I've watched so many encouraging videos of other sufferers. Liz Bills comes to mind. She has been such an inspiration to me, and oh my gosh, her voice is incredible. To think that she has suffered from muscle tension dysphonia, and for such a long time. The first video that I saw of her post was where she was saying that she had had it already for 7 years, and I just thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to have this for 7 years. But I'd already had it for a year by that stage. So who knows? This may go on for a really long time. I've had it for 15 months now. I was diagnosed with it in September 2021. But you see in Liz Bill's videos that she's journeyed through her experience so well that now she's back to singing. She's back to vocal coaching, and she is living, despite her muscle tension dysphonia, being able to enjoy all of the things that she loves to do. And my hope is that myself and other people will continue to work really hard through this journey. If you have muscle tension dysphonia or a vocal disorder at all, to not lose hope and to never give up, and to take heart from those who have either experienced it and come out the other side, or like Liz and myself. I don't know how she currently describes herself, whether she says she's completely healed or if she's still saying it's in the background there. But I know that I heard her say, and I also feel that I won't allow muscle tension dysphonia to define me. It isn't all that I am. For a long time there, probably for a good 12 months, it seemed like that's all I was. But I'm coming out the other side mentally and emotionally and spiritually. So even though physically I may still have some symptoms, my mental and emotional and spiritual self are able to journey through each day in a much more positive and hopeful and stronger self, so stronger way and stronger attitude. So if anything that I share today encourages you, then I've achieved my goal already. But I don't pretend to know everything or understand everything. I can only share my experience. So that's what this video is about, just to share with you how it's been for me. The onset was quite gradual. I'm a singer and a musician, but in 2020 I discovered the art of songwriting. So I wrote quite a few songs during 2020, and then come the beginning of 2021, pausing. Hi, and if you noticed a bit of a glitch, it's because someone came to the door, so I've just paused it and have re-recorded. So yeah, my onset was quite gradual. I started singing more often, so my vocal load increased as I wrote more songs, and I was starting to sing them in some various places, as well as the other singing that I would do from time to time with my church band. And of course, then all the singing I would do at home when I would work out a new song or practice it or just sing for joy or sing for God, because I'm a Christian. So my vocal load increased, and I had quite a stressful 2020 and then 21. Obviously, you all know about how stressful the onset of 2020 was with the beginning of COVID and how that hit the world. But for most of us, that wasn't the only thing going on, and we often had other things going on in our lives that made facing and dealing with all the pressures of what was happening around the world COVID-wise just that much harder. And so a lot of people put that time that they were in isolation to good use. I guess that's one of the things that I did, is that I developed myself more musically, and so vocal load increased, my stress levels increased. I had a lot of losses all happening during that very busy and stressful time. So there was a lot of personal pain and a lot of stress going on that way. I also had some physical issues going on with my diet, and I'd had acid reflux for 15 years, so I had a lot of phlegm in my throat, and then I began the process of beginning to clear my throat all the time just to try and push back that phlegm. It was becoming a real problem with singing, and it was often just there and in the way, and I couldn't kind of get the notes out because it was there. So I'd clear my throat to try and start a song, and as I learned later, apparently that's the worst thing you can do for your vocal folds and your vocal health, is to clear your throat. I got explained that it's like banging your vocal folds or your vocal cords, however you call them, together. And it is a more violent action than anything else you can do with your voice. So that was when I asked to see a specialist. I went to my GP and said, my voice is starting to break down. I had started recording my very first songs, so I was working with a sound engineer in a studio trying to begin that journey. And my voice, as I worked with him week after week, I noticed that my voice was getting worse as each week went by. And so I went to my GP, I asked to see a specialist, and I was sent to an ear, nose and throat specialist. And I saw them a month later, so by now this was September, and he noticed that I had swelling in my vocal tract, and I had tension in my vocal folds, in my false vocal folds. So things were not happy in there. And he said, when he found out that I was a singer, he said, right, I know what to do. He gave me some ideas about the acid reflux, but he said, I'll send you to a speech pathologist that specializes in singing, in the singing voice, rehabilitating the singing voice, and singing coaching. So I went to a voice specializing, singing specializing speech pathologist, and I didn't see them till October. In October, when I first saw them, she said that she asked me, when do you want to be singing again? And I said, well, yesterday, because I was I had only just finished, or was still in the middle of recording that song. We'd kind of had finally done the last laying down of it, but I wasn't sure if it was completely finished. So yeah, I said yesterday, but she said, well, how about in 3 months' time, which was going to be Christmas? Please don't sing for 3 months, and we'll just start you on some vocal exercises. And I just cried all the way home, thought, Singing is my life. I sing all day long, in the car, when I'm working. I work isolated most of the time, so I can have my music on and I sang along, and then all the other things that I was doing. So it's like, how on earth can I not sing for 3 months? Had I known then what I know now, it's like 3 months would have been a dream compared to 15 months and counting. But I got to the end of December and we had experienced even more loss by then. So my emotional state kind of just kept ramping up and getting more and more anxious and more stressed. And subsequently, as my stress and personal anxiety and emotional states increased, my vocal ability went down and down and down, to the point that I got to New Year's Day, had it with my husband and our children. We had a beautiful day by the river, but by the end of the day I could barely make a sound without excruciating pain in my larynx, which had been beginning. But it was that day that I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot talk anymore until I see my ENT specialist again, because maybe I've developed something. Maybe I have a polyp, maybe I have whatever else is in there that, you know, it may need surgery. I didn't know. I just thought I must be doing it wrong. The exercises that I've been doing hadn't been helping me to that point, purely because of the emotional stress I was under. And I decided that I was going to stop speaking. So I sent my family a text, because I had made a mental decision. I'm not going to talk anymore for the 10 days leading up to my next specialist appointment. Had a bit of a cough then, and since I'm so careful about not clearing my throat and not coughing anymore, I had to excuse myself to go get a glass of water. So I didn't speak for 10 days, which was easy on my part, because I didn't want to make any sound because it hurt. And the only way to stop the pain, which felt like a razor blade just being sliced across through the middle of my larynx and just piercing everything that was in there. So to avoid that, I was willing to do anything. So I actually had a little holiday that was booked by our children with my husband for several days during that 10-day period. So it was like, oh, what do we do? My husband said, well, if you're fine with it, I'm fine with it. And we just had a bit of fun in coming up with ways to still enjoy our holiday and our time together, with me being completely silent. And I just downloaded an app on my phone, text to speech, and I was able to just type in what I wanted to say, and then I could show it to play it for him, or I could go into a supermarket and I could type it in and I could show it to people. So that's how I got through the 10 days. My family were incredibly patient with me. When I went to the ENT, that was the first time that I spoke. So walked into the office, checked in. That was the first time I had made any sound. And then sat in his office. I told him that I hadn't been speaking. He said that they wouldn't normally recommend anyone to not use their voice unless they'd had surgery and they needed a couple of days for the swelling to go down. So he strongly encouraged me to get back into speaking. He did an examination with the stroboscope again, which is what he did the first time. And let me tell you, if you haven't had a stroboscopic examination on your vocal cords, if you feel like you have some type of vocal issue, then you need to go see someone that will do that, because they're the only ones that can properly diagnose you. With the camera going all the way down, it's the only way anything on there can be seen, because everything is obviously on the outside, and you need it to be fully comprehensive so that you're getting all the information that you need. He said that the swelling had gone down, which was understandable because I hadn't been using my voice, but the tension was still there. And by that stage it had gone from tension to significant tension, so it actually hadn't improved at all. So I was then recommended to go to a new speech pathologist and try some different exercises, and then the journey went on and on and on, and that was in January of this year. So by March I was in so much pain now, not just in my throat and in my larynx, but in my jaw and in my head. As soon as I would go, as the day wore on, my jaw would get tighter and tighter and tighter and more painful. As soon as I would try and lay down to sleep, the back of my head, wherever my head was touching a surface and experienced pressure, I would get extreme pain there. So I had several weeks where I really wasn't sleeping at all. Without pain relief, I'd try and go to bed without pain relief because I don't really like to take medication if I can help it. But I just could not get off to sleep without it. So I would often get up and then wait the time that it takes for it to take effect. So by this time I'm still stressed from all the personal trauma that I'd been through. I was in such intense pain in several areas from here up, and I was sleep deprived because I would normally sleep with earplugs as well, just because without silence I tend to be too much of a light sleeper, and I can't drift off if I can hear things. I couldn't wear earplugs in my ears because that just caused intense pain in my ears as well, because it's all connected, your throat. That's why you see an ear, nose and throat specialist, because they're also interconnected. So I was in a pretty bad way by June, and I saw my ENT again in June, and then it was recommended that I have some Botox therapy into my vocal folds, my false vocal folds, to see if that would help calm everything down. That didn't really work. The injections were put into the absolute right place, and I was taken care of really well. It did affect my voice in that it made my voice a little bit weaker again, because that means that the vocal folds were relaxing and then they didn't work as well as they would normally to produce sound. But the pain in my larynx, the tension when speaking, none of that actually was eased at all through the medication of the Botox. So by that stage, when I had gone to see him again in June, it had gone from tension to significant tension in January, and then in June, by June, it was severe tension. And really, Botox was the last option. That was the last thing that was offered. So normally you can try and do vocal therapy and speech therapy first, and that often helps and works for many people. And then if that doesn't bring relief, then the Botox is recommended. But yeah, it didn't work for me. So I continued on. I was suggested to just do all of whatever I had found helped relax me. I was told that nothing more could be done. There was no more medical help or treatment that was available. That there was no textbook on my case. Lots of people kept saying to me, you need to see a counsellor, to help get you through this, because by that stage then I was suffering almost like a PTSD just from the onset of my vocal disorder, not being able to speak, not being able to communicate, not being able to use your voice, not being able to sing. All these things come into it. So I kept thinking, yeah, that would be awesome. And yes, I know I need to see someone to speak to them and just try and help offload and process all of this emotional distress, but I can't talk to someone without it hurting. So I was in a bit of a dilemma. I'm looking at my notes down here just so that I don't forget anything. But I saw so many practitioners and therapists and people who are in the industry of medical care and help, and every one of them brought something in my pathway that has helped me along the way. It may not have taken away my tension in my vocal folds. It may have not always relieved the pain. But bar one that I didn't really feel an emotional connection to, and didn't at the time, because I was in such a state of distress, feel that anything that they gave me helped. But since, as I've relaxed and worked through a lot of things, I've been able to go back to some of the stuff that they recommended, and I have trialed them, and they are beginning to work a bit better now. But by and large, everyone that I have seen, and I have seen everyone, I have seen chiropractors, I've seen physiotherapists, I've seen voice physiotherapists, I've seen an osteopath, I've seen a naturopath, I've seen a GP, I've seen my ENT specialist, I've seen a few different speech pathologists, I've seen a singing coach, masseuse, counsellor, and I'm now seeing a psychologist. So yeah, there really isn't anyone within the sphere of treating the disorder that I haven't seen. And so many of them have been absolutely fantastic, and just, I know that every single one of them wanted to help so badly. They could see the dilemma I was in and the distress I was in. You could just tell that they were really, really wanting to help. And I'd go back and see them like after a week, and they would ask me, how are you going? And I almost felt guilty by saying no change yet, because I knew I was letting them down. I could see how badly they wanted to help me. But yeah, it just seemed like for so long nothing was really changing. But yeah, I just really must stress that make sure, if you are seeing a therapist of any kind, whether it be medical, physical, emotional, psychological, or even a spiritual support person, make sure that it is someone that you feel a connection with. It's someone that you feel is truly empathic towards you. It's someone that you feel has a positive and hopeful vibe about themselves and belief system for their own life, not only for you, because it's real positivity and hope and belief and faith that you will get better and you will come through this. That is really key. So if you see someone and you've seen them several times and you're just not really feeling that vibe or that connection happen for you, or you might be feeling judged by them, you might be feeling like they're not really understanding you, or maybe they're not listening to you. I did see a GP once who was really actually quite judgmental to me in the emergency room, and he actually just made me feel worse about things when I left the room, so never go back to him. So yeah, just make sure it's someone who feels like you feel listened to, you feel cared about, and you feel like is really invested in wanting to help get you the best treatment that you can. Otherwise, if it's the opposite, it actually just does more damage and can set you back. And that's what did happen to me a couple times. So pretty much I got to the point where people just said to me, I think all we can offer you is some pain management. So I did end up needing to go on a pain and muscle relaxing medication daily, which I'm still on. I believe that helped me to turn the corner, because while I was in so much physical pain, I couldn't think straight enough to even do the exercises right. I couldn't think straight to feel positive about anything. I couldn't see anything positive. Everything just felt so negative and so hopeless, until I was able to actually function on a day-to-day basis, until I was able to sleep better, and actually then start to be able to put one foot in front of the other and figure out what actually does work for me, what actually does help me feel better, and then start to try them one after the other. So I eventually had to get to a point of acceptance as well. There's a lot of grief in this whole process, grief about what you've lost, and we lose so much when we suffer medically we lose our life. Yeah. It really felt like I lost my life. Sorry. I lost the ability to communicate with my family. I lost our social life. We weren't able to socialise anymore because I couldn't communicate with people. And on the odd time that we did, and I felt brave enough to give it a go, I realised it was too soon, and actually the anxiety of being there, knowing that I couldn't speak to these people who were standing in front of me asking me questions, lovingly and kindly and empathically, but albeit still asking me questions and waiting for a response from me that I didn't feel that I could deliver. The anxiety that would just be like a choker chain around my throat just got to the point that I knew I couldn't see people and I couldn't talk on the phone. I wouldn't answer my phone if it would ring, and I would get my husband to make phone calls if I couldn't make an online booking. So much of life just immediately and dramatically changed. I know I'm not who I used to be anymore. This has changed me for good. But it has changed me for the better. And in subsequent videos, as I go on to share more about this, I'll hopefully be able to share a lot of those things that I feel I am changed the better in. But I did want to just quickly describe something that I read very early on, right back at the beginning of the journey, when I couldn't quite get a handle on the grief that I was experiencing, when I just discovered that, hey, my voice just doesn't work like it should anymore. And this was something that I read in an article that I just Googled. And it's by a man called Kenneth Bozeman. And the article is called Voice, the Muscle of the Soul, Finding Yourself Through Finding Your Voice. And I've just pulled out a couple of key points that really resonated with me and my condition. But it's a really, really fascinating article, and I encourage you to look it up. He says the voice is the muscle of the soul. Some people even call it their sound face or your soul face. Your voice is your sound face, as unique as a fingerprint, presenting to the world who you are or who you perceive yourself to be. Vocal production in speech and singing requires the involvement of more than 100 muscles. Vocal motor activity is routinely performed at a faster rate than any other human behaviour, with discrete movements from 50 to 1,500 times per second. Wow. And what I've learned from speech pathology is that when we actually make sound, our vocal folds, what some people call vocal cords, are actually vibrating more than 200 times per second. And it's the vibration as the air passes through them, the vibration of the vocal cords, which actually helps to create sound. Voice is thus very personal, being so strongly associated with personal identity. A piano is a piano, behind me. A violin is a violin, but a voice is a person. The process of developing your voice's ability to express more fully and completely who you are and what your feelings and convictions are then is a very much process of self-discovery, even of self-formation. In order to speak or sing well, you must in fact have something to say and know clearly what you want to say. Finding and developing that is a crucial step toward finding yourself. And I don't think we often are very good at doing that until something is taken away. And the old saying, you don't know what you have until you lose it, was so true. And I didn't appreciate my voice. I wasn't grateful for it. I often disliked it. I didn't think it was any good. I hated the way it sounded, don't we? I didn't think I could sing. And although I loved to sing and I was passionate about it, I felt that it was my calling and my ministry. I didn't think it was good enough for people to listen to. So I was fearful of singing in front of others. I had severe performance anxiety, which I know now, as soon as I would try and sing in public to anybody, the stress levels of my performance anxiety would just sit right here. So how could anything healthy and functioning be actually working for me with that pressure and that stress going on? So yeah, I have, through this journey, it's one of the positives that I'll mention, help to discover myself. And I don't mean that in a conceited way, because I give all the glory to God to be actually able to speak as well as I am just to record this video. Through his healing, as the person of faith that I am. But it's been a journey of so much learning and so much soul digging and so much earthwork that's just gone on within me, not just the physical. So I can gladly and thankfully and gratefully and positively say that at my last ENT examination, my stroboscopy, which was only a couple of weeks ago, where are we now? We're December, yeah. So it was the first week of December. He saw no visible tension in my vocal cords, so hallelujah. But he did explain that day there was no visible tension there. That doesn't mean that the next day or that afternoon I didn't still have tension there. And I know that since I have still been experiencing tension in certain conversations, after certain experiences, or after I've tried to sing. My singing voice is still in rehabilitation, as is still my speaking voice. But it has come so far because I could not vocalize or communicate like this 3 months ago. So though I still have symptoms on and off, I am still full of hope and faith that I am going to one day be a survivor of my muscle tension dysphonia. I'm already a survivor because I've been so much worse than I am now, and the fact that I have even improved is evidence that I'm surviving it. But I want to be victorious, and I want to be someone who can inspire and encourage others and help them along in their journey. If there's anything that I can share that has helped or worked for me during this whole experience, then absolutely I want to do that. I've recently discovered a new song, and as a musician, obviously music speaks to me often more than most other things can. And it's a song that I came across by accident because I listened to just a country playlist on Spotify, and it's by a guy called Justin Gambino, and the song is called Courage. And I just want to read out a couple of the lyrics. Obviously I'll put the link to the song down below, but there's a couple of the lyrics in there that just are one of the ones that really speak to me are: the road on this journey can sometimes be so hard to bear. Sometimes it's hard to find someone who says that they care. There are those who would believe that I've got something to say, and those very people inspired my leap of faith. I won't give up. I won't lose hope. As long as you're breathing this air into my lungs, I won't let go. So, be blessed, be strong, be courageous, know that you're not alone. And if you've got any comments or questions that you want to leave below, I'd be more than happy to receive them. Thank you so much.